Hello, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be going over 3 ACT math questions. For all these problems, I recommend pausing the video first and trying the problems yourself before you see me solve them. Without wasting any time, let's get into it. Question 22 says, let m and n be positive numbers such that m is less than n. Which of the following expressions has the greatest value? Okay, so for this problem, instead of dealing with these variables, it's much easier to just plug in numbers for m and n, and that's going to make it much easier than just working with these variables. So just pick two numbers that fit this restriction. So for m, let's just pick like 3, and n, let's pick like 6, okay? And now, actually, let's go with 2 even numbers, because now it's going to be easier with like dividing, right? So let's go 2. M is 2, n is 6. So now, this is just pretty easy. So let's just plug in m. Let's plug in 2 for m, and let's plug in 6 for n. So for the first one, 2 plus 6 over 2. That's 8 over 2, which is 4. Let's go on to the next answer choice. 2 plus 6 is 8 over n, which is 6. 8 over 6 is less than 4, so it can't be G. Let's check the other answer choices. Okay, for H, I don't even need to test it with plugging these in. M plus n over m plus n, that is going to be 1, which is less than 4. So far, F is our greatest answer choice. Let's move on to J. J is m, 2 over m plus n, which is 8, which is 1/4. And this is smaller than everything so far, so it's not J. And then the last one is K, which is n, 6 over m plus n, which is 8, 3/4. And this is also smaller than 4, which means our answer to this question is F. Now, see, this is much easier than dealing with variables. The other way to do this problem by using number theory would be to like realize how can we get the greatest numerator and how can we get the smallest denominator, right? Because for a fraction, numerator, and this is your denominator, if you want to maximize the value of a fraction, right, you want to make sure this is the greatest it can be, and you want this to be as small as it can, right? Because if I have like 5 over 1, and if I make the numerator like 1,000 over 1, right? If the numerator increases, the value of the fraction increases, right? And now look at this. If this was 5 over 1, let's go like 5 over 5, which is 1. And then if I make the denominator smaller, again, the value increases, right? So the key would be to look for the greatest numerator and the smallest denominator. But the best way to solve this problem would just be plugging in numbers, as that's very time efficient and gets you the answer very quickly as it just plug and chug. So that's how you do question 22. On to question 53, which says that given that f of x equals x squared minus 4 and g of x equals x plus 3, what are all the values of x for which f g of x equals 0? Okay, so for all the other composite function problems I've done in my previous videos, normally in this problem, it's x, but normally instead of x, they give us a number. So for this problem, let's just realize what the question is basically telling us and asking us. So it says, so let's ignore g of x for now. So let's look at the outside. So it's saying f of the input, and let's just call the input question mark for now. This equals 0, right? In this case, the input is basically g of x, right? So what we first want to do is see for what value of x we get what value of x we plug into f of x, we get 0. And then whatever values we get for x, we set that equal to this input, this question mark, and this question mark is just g of x, right? So whatever we get when we set f of x equal to 0, we want to set those values of x equal to g of x. So let's do that. So let's set f of x equal to 0, right? Because, again, if we were to just ignore g of x and if we made this a question mark, it would basically be asking us what do you have to plug in into f to get a value of 0, right? And then you want g of x to give the output of this question mark, right? So let's set f of x equal to 0. So x squared minus 4 equals 0. And if we solve for x squared equals 4, because you add 4 to both sides, square root, you get x equals plus minus 2, or x equals 2 comma negative 2. So this means that when we plug 2 into f and negative 2 into f, we get 0, right? So we know that we want g of x to equal 2 or negative 2, right? And now we can just set g of x equal to 2 or negative 2. So x plus 3 equals 2. X plus 3 is what the equation for g of x. And x plus 3 equals negative 2. And now we can just solve for x. So for this first one, we just subtract 3. So x equals 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. And for this bottom one, subtract 3, x equals negative 5. So x equals negative 1 and negative 5, which matches answer choice A. Another way to do this problem would be just to replace g of x here with x plus 3, right? Which would result in f of x plus 3. And now what you could do is that you could take x plus 3 and you could just treat it like a number. Like if this was like f of 5, right? You plug it in here. You would just do the same thing with x plus 3. You would just plug it in for wherever you see x in f of x. And then you could solve it like that too. Okay, on to the last question. Question 60. Question 60 says, the circumference of a circle is 16 pi feet. What is the perimeter in feet of a square inscribed in the circle? Inscribed is just going to mean inside, and that means all 4 corners of the square are touching the circle. So let me draw that for you guys. In this case, the 4 corners are touching the circle, and it's asking us for the perimeter in feet of a square inscribed in the circle. So for this problem, the thing to realize here is that if I were to draw the diameter of the circle, right? The diameter could be like this, or I could also draw it like this, right? This is also the diameter. Let me get rid of this line. So I'm going to draw it in a different color, actually. So the thing to realize is that this red line equals the diameter of the circle, right? And the thing to see is this is not only the diameter of the circle, but this is also a diagonal of the square, right? And we can actually figure out what the diameter is because they've given us that the circumference of the circle is 16 pi feet. And the formula to find the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r, right? And 2 pi r, 2 times the radius is just the diameter. So basically the diameter times pi equals our circumference, which is 16 pi. So the diameter is 16, right? So that means the value of this red line is 16. The diameter of the circle is 16. So now let's just focus on the square. So if the diameter is 16, that means the diagonal is 16. And then we can, since all sides in a square are equal, we can just put this as x, and this can be x. And then we can solve this by using the 45, 45, 90 identity, and I'll show you guys what that is. Since this is a right triangle, we know the hypotenuse is 16. X and x. We're just trying to figure out what the sides are, right? Each side is equal, and the identity is in a 45, 45, 90 triangle. XX, and this is x root 2. This side is x root 2. So we can set x root 2 equal to 16, and then we can solve for x to get our side. So if I divide by root 2, I get x equals 16 over root 2. And let's simplify this. Times root 2 times root 2. 16 root 2 over 2. 8 root 2. Which means the side of the square, the value of the side of the square, it's 8 root 2. And to find the perimeter of the square, you just add up all the sides. And since each side is 8 root 2, you would do 4 times 8 root 2 to find the perimeter, which is 32 root 2, which matches answer choice K. I hope that makes sense, and thank you for watching.